Welcome to the Heart of a Viking. This channel offers elementary art lessons taught by Mrs. Minto from the Cape Henlopen School District in Delaware. I look forward to virtually creating with you. There are new lessons posted weekly. Subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss a single one. So go grab your art supplies and your thinking caps and let's begin. All right, fifth graders, the project that we are about to begin hopefully should spark some prior knowledge, I'm hoping. So what I'm looking at here are some ecosystems. If you recall from what you might have learned in science, an ecosystem is an environment that is fully functioning and healthy and able to sustain on its own because everything is in balance. But if one thing is thrown off balance, let's say some kind of pollution in the water, then the rest of the ecosystem will suffer as well. The animals that come to drink the water will suffer. The plants and the animals that live in the water will suffer. So things will suffer because something in the ecosystem is out of balance. So what we're going to do today is I'd love for you to do a Google search like I did here. I'd like for you to search for a cartoon. I like cartoons for this one because it really gets an opportunity to show us above ground and below water. And I'd love for you to look for a pond or a lake ecosystem, something where there's water so that we can go underwater for our picture. Once you find one or two that you like, we're going to start to sketch a picture of what that ecosystem looks like. So I like to always create my own artwork, so I often pull a little bit of information from one of the cartoon pictures and a little bit of information from another one of them. So when you finally decide on which one of those ecosystems you like, I'd like for you to go ahead and get yourself a piece of art paper and fold it in half one time like you're making a card for someone. Then I'd love for you to start sketching along with me. All right, so let's fold our papers and begin. All right, so I am looking at the pictures I had chosen from the Google search that I had made, and I'm looking at them and using them as inspiration. Of course, I can change them, alter them, combine them, whatever I decide. All right, so that fold across the middle, that is the water's surface. So anything below that line is underwater, and anything above that line is above water. However, I can also put the surface of the water above the water. So think a duck, how he floats on the surface, that I can put above. So what I'm sketching now is a horizon line way back in the distance, along with some hills or like little rolling land that's a little higher than the rest of the land off to the right side. And then I'm going to add some grasses and plant life that's growing in or right on the water's edge. Now I'm going to start adding some things that are floating on the surface of the water. So lily pads, they float on the surface of the water. I'll add a duck floating on the surface of the water. So now I'm thinking, what could be floating on the surface of the water? And then finally, I'll add some things that are way back on those hills that I had drawn in the first place. So I'm going to put some evergreen trees that are super far away, drawn really small, some grasses that are a little bit closer, growing right near the water's edge. And then finally, I'm going to draw some little animals that are on the surface of the water as well. So maybe a little frog sitting on a lily pad, or a little duck swimming in the water, or there could be birds or dragonflies flying above the water. So think any living creature that could be on the surface of the water, or floating on the surface of the water, or flying above it, or coming to get a little drink. All right, so now let's get out our scuba gear. Okay, not really, but we're going underwater now. So using those pictures that we used from our Google search as inspiration again, I'm drawing the sediment or like the dirt that's under the land first. That's that U shape across the bottom edge of my paper. And then I'm going to draw some like tall seagrasses or some sort of sea life that's underneath of here. I'm going to put a little bit more sediment. Maybe it's like the looser rock or sand that's covering the surface of the bottom of the water. I'll put some tall seagrasses, maybe some fish, any other creatures that you want. Now, I happen to be drawing a freshwater pond, so I need to be mindful of that. I can't have any like sharks and dolphins swimming around in my picture because they aren't freshwater marine life. So I need to make sure that I choose something that is in a pond. And finally, some texture in that sediment or dirt that I have there on the sides, just so it doesn't look smooth and even. I want it to look, rough and rocky like it would. Okay, and once your picture is all set, you can definitely start coloring. I like dry art supplies for this project. So colored pencils and crayons would be my most favorite choices. If you only have markers are an okay choice as well, but definitely no paint. Because of the next step, what we're doing after the coloring part, we would not want to have a paper that is crinkly or wet from having watercolor paints or any other kind of paints on the surface. So we definitely want some dry art supplies. My favorite's colored pencils because I've drawn some really detailed areas and I can sharpen my colored pencils to get nice points that can get into those little detail-y areas. So colored pencils are my favorite choice, but crayons would work just as well. You just might not be able to get in those little areas. In addition, don't forget about those really useful colored pencil tips that we've used in the past. Press hard to get nice, smooth, dark colors. That's what I'm doing on my lily pads because that's what lily pads look like. And then if you have a spot that needs to be rough, then you can kind of use a scribbly technique and try and capture that texture as well. And don't forget about color blending. I love color blending for colored pencils. It provides you with the opportunity to create shadows and also create unique colors that are suitable for the area that you're coloring in. All right, so have fun with your colors. You're coloring above the water and below the water in whatever order you want to. All right, so in this first part of this lesson, we are not going to get finished with the coloring. So color as much as you can in this first part, and then set this aside and save it until the next week, and we will get started with the next part of this project next week. Please don't feel like you have to color it all in one sitting. I am definitely not. I'm taking some time, a little break, give my hand a break, and I'll come back to this next time.